I'm Margit. We're going to go over Shavasana today, a very important pose for the month of December. I teach here at the Yoga Sanctuary Mondays and Wednesdays, 4 and 5:30 p.m. So let's go over one of the most important poses, Shavasana, also known as corpse pose or our relaxation pose, often practiced at the end of class. So I'm going to lead Jennifer through Shavasana today, and we're going to go over a couple of the props that you might use so that you can be absolutely comfortable, one of the most important aspects of the pose. So I'm going to move off to the side and let her move over to the mat. So traditionally this posture is practiced with very little support, so we might have her come into that first, and I'll give her some options in a moment. She's going to come down and extend her legs, let the feet come a little wider towards the outer edges of the mat, and then she can open her palms out to her sides and just see how she feels. Okay, some people aren't comfortable in the pose in this way. For example, we could get a little discomfort in the neck. We could get a little discomfort in the low back area. So I'm going to show a couple of options. We could prop the head, maybe not even very high at all, just a thin blanket fold, unless we see that the head is spilling backward excessively. Then we might bring that blanket up or even roll it a little bit underneath the neck for a little more support. So if we want a little more of the back to rest completely in towards the mat, we'll use a bolster. So I'm going to have Jennifer bend her knees for a moment. And you can actually place this underneath the knees, or it could be up a little higher, depending on preference. So I have it here on its lowest height, but you could play around with that, bringing it up to the edge of the bolster to mimic our constructive rest pose. So that's another option. Or we could flatten it a little bit more and even go up a little higher, a little closer to the buttock. So it's really a matter of preference, a little something that you might play around with, and this might change depending on the day, depending on how you're feeling. Okay, so I'm going to leave her here. I'm going to add an eye pillow to block out the light, and then we're going to talk about what exactly should be happening in Shavasana. These first few moments, I'll have you make sure that you feel balanced side to side. So as if you had a line drawn down the center of your body, you'll want to feel balanced. We don't want to overthink this. We don't want to overanalyze. Just a couple moments to even things out. We might even take a moment just to feel the heaviness of the body and notice where we're contacting the ground. So in this case, we would feel the heels, backs of the knees and thighs, the hips. Notice where torso meets the ground. And then we feel the heaviness of the head against the blanket. Take a moment to notice shoulder blades and the backs of the arms and the hands. So we're sure that we feel balanced. We want to make sure that we are still in Shavasana. So this can often be one of the hardest parts of the pose. We'll often find reasons to want to move. So basically you're making the commitment to be still for however long you take to practice this pose. And then finally what we're looking for is to have a mental focus. So this can be as simple as following the breath. We oftentimes use a breath awareness and centering practice. So it's very similar to that. It might be feeling the breath and how the body responds. With regards to the breath, you could use the sound of the breath, or just feeling the quality of the breath itself. And if for any reason you found that those didn't work for you, there are other little hacks, such as perhaps focusing on a peaceful image or maybe a word that has meaning for you. Basically, you're just looking to create that mental focus so that you can come back to it each time your mind loses the thread. So with that said, we're going to give Jennifer a little bit of time, just a short amount of time today. And note that this posture can be practiced on its own at any time. So if you were to do that, a nice guideline would to be about 10 minutes or so just to elicit that relaxation response. So that's basically it. That's Shavasana. Some say the most important pose. Sometimes the most under-practiced pose, especially in a home practice. I know that I'm guilty of that. And